Hello everybody and welcome back to another CB ShowTunes tutorial. Now today what we're going to be getting into is setting up a building and being able to spawn objects from that building and then sending them to a new game object. We're also going to be talking about how to spawn characters using this building, um, using currency pretty much. And last but not least, we're also going to be covering how to actually move our camera using our mouse up against the screen. Now, if you've been following along inside our tutorials, we did make a camera control script that allowed us to move around the character, but it was a little bit flawed in a way because when we tried moving around, moving our mouse up or down or sideways, um, it would constantly follow our mouse, which really got annoying. So I made a little bit of a fix there. So let's go and cover that first. So starting off, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to find your main camera and we're going to attach a couple objects on it. So if I go and select all these right here, you can see we made like this little bit of a square that attached to our main camera. This way, whenever we adjust our camera, it will of course follow that. I just simply disable the mesh render, and of course we still have our box colliders active, but I set them to is trigger. This means that they will not collide with anything, so we don't have to worry about any form of bugs inside that. Okay, and we're also going to have this trigger camera screen, which this right here is a very, I guess you could say, simple script. So the first thing that you're going to look at is at the top here, you can see public camera control CC. If you don't got the camera control script, it is inside the previous video, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think it is. And of course, that has everything that you need to have for your camera. And of course, we have a public bool called up, down, left, and right. This basically allows us to decide which camera is going to be used for which activation, or pretty much which control point we're going to be using. All right, so void on mouse over. Now this is a very good script that or not really a script, it's more like a plugin that Unity has already had. So we don't have to worry about adding in a whole bunch of methods and all. So if up, then we're going to say CC, which is our camera control, dot get component camera control. So we're finding the reference point, and then we're going to say dot move up. And I'll get into that once we get over to the mouse control script itself, which we did edit as well. And of course, I followed along all the way through here with all these. So if you see down, move left, and right, move right. So that's pretty much it with that. I'm not going to actually put this individual script inside the comment section below, mainly because it is such a simple script that anybody could copy it down. Okay, so let's head over into our mouse control script. Now, for our mouse control script, or not our mouse control script, we need our camera's control. So let me go and pull that up real fast. Okay, there we go. So inside our camera control script, what you're going to notice is you're going to see a lot of green right here. And what I did here was I commented out this section. Now this was what we were using to control our camera previously. So if you have that inside the previous script, you can go ahead and simply just put like these two little slashes, or you can delete it. It's up to you. Okay, so at the bottom of this script, you're simply going to add these little functions. It's a very simple setup. So you're going to say public void move right, xpos plus equals cam speed. So you're adjusting the position of your camera based on the position of your xpos, right? So if you take a look at this right here, we have our xpos setup, right? Or if you take a look at this, our xpos plus is equal to our mouse x. So we're doing the same thing here, we're just adjusting it using a specific function. So we're going to be constantly moving over, or constantly moving over, or constantly moving up, or constantly moving down. So just follow along for every single one of those. It's just pretty much copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And of course, up and down is going to be y post instead of x post. And that's it. That's all you got to worry about. Okay, so now since we got that covered, we're going to go ahead and get into the actual scripting for this individual tutorial, which of course is for the barracks itself. So the first thing that you're going to need to do for this individual setup is to create a building for your barracks. Now, this may sound super hard to do, I know, but you could pretty much just use a cube as your demonstration project or pretty much as your setup project, and then you can replace that cube with something better later on. So here we have our cube. It's just sitting inside our scene. Let me go and go to it real fast. So here it is right here. It's just a simple cube. Ain't even, sitting on the solid ground and all. And all you got to do with this cube is make sure that you set it to static and of course name it to barracks. Okay. Now if you don't want to call it barracks, then you're going to have to adjust something into the script later on. But go ahead and name it barracks for now, just for this tutorial purposes. Then you're going to go ahead and find your navigation panel. Now if you don't got this up, simply go over to your Windows and then find navigation. I believe it's somewhere around here. Yep, it's somewhere, but can't seem to find it. Oh, there it is. People, I got lost for a second. Okay, so you're going to select navigation, and then you're going to see these 4 different tabs. Now, we're looking for this big tab. Now, the big tab allows us to see all these little blue lines, and this, of course, is our movement system for our characters and enemies and whatever else we want. So to bake this into your object, you're simply going to select Bake, and that allows this little object to become an obstacle inside of this scene, so you can't actually have your character walk on it. So anything in blue you can walk on, anything else you can't. That's pretty much it. Okay, so now since we got that covered, we're going to go ahead and go back over to our inspector. And we're going to set up a spawn location. So you can set this up as a child underneath your barracks. So wherever you adjust your barracks, you can set that to the spawn location. And the spawn location is simply just a copy of the same cube, just shrunk down a little bit. I believe it's a 0.5 and a 0.5. Yep. And of course, we set our box collider to is trigger instead of that. And of course, we made sure that it was not static. There's a reason for we're not putting it as static. See, we want the navigation mesh to acknowledge that the barracks is static, so then it's not going to be moving around. But since this is an object that we want our character to go to, we don't want it to be static, and we don't want it to be set up. So we're going to make it just is trigger so our characters can go through it. Okay, so now since we got that set up, you got your barracks all ready to go. You're going to notice that we have like this little Barracks script on here. Now this I will post inside the comment section below, so you won't have to write it all down, but it's a very simple script. So starting off at the top, you're going to have public base inventory player bank. This is pretty much going to be your inventory script. If you already have one, that's great. If you don't have one, we're going to cover that later on inside this tutorial. So just hang on for that. So it'll say a little bit of a red thing, or have a little red squiggly line telling you, oh, it's messed up. But don't worry, we'll get that fixed later on. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to set up is a public game object called spawn object. And if you notice these 2 little brackets right there, that stands for an array. I set this up so we can spawn multiple objects based on how many game objects that you want to have inside there. So like if you want to spawn like a knight or an archer or whatever you want to spawn, I set that up just so we can do that. Okay, so next we have a public transform called new location on spawn. This of course is for our spawning object over here. So if we open up that, our spawn location, that's pretty much what that is for. We also have a public bool called is selected. This decides if our mouse, whenever we select it, if it becomes selected or if it's not selected. Public game object GUI barracks. So this represents the panel that we're going to be using, or more like the canvas we're going to be using to basically hold the button for our barracks. Yeah. So basically the button that we press to actually get a character, And of course, we're going to create a public float called cost unit. And this, of course, is going to be set as an array as well. And you'll see why in a second. So void start, we're going to put is selected is equal to false. The reason why we did that is because we don't want ourselves to automatically have the UI system automatically up. We want it to be hidden. Also, we're going to create a void update function, and inside this we're going to put this very simple equation. We're going to say if is selected, then GUI barracks or the UI set active is equal to true. So now we have our UI system for this barracks available for us to actually activate. Else if not selected, or if is selected is equal to false, GUI barracks.setActive is equal to false. Very simple, right? And of course, at the way bottom, if input.getMouseButton_down 1, which represents our right mouse key, is selected is equal to false. Now, if you notice, we did not make it to where we could select this object through this, or through this script. And the reason why we did this is because we don't want this individual script to be able to select. We're going to be having our mouse control script do that. And if you don't have the mouse control script, it is inside some of the previous tutorials before. I'm not sure which one because it's been such a while, but just go back through all the tutorials until you find it, and then you'll have it. Okay. Now at the way bottom, we're going to create a public void called spawn new player. This allows us to attach the script to a button, and then of course we can activate this individual script. So we're going to say if player bank, which is of course our inventory script, .gold cur, our current gold. Of course you won't have this at the moment, so just don't worry about that, but yeah. Is less or is greater than cost unit, which of course is going to be 0, because that's our first object, and then we're going to put what we want inside there. So we're going to subtract the amount that it cost. We're also going to instantiate the spawn object, and we're also going to set the position is equal to a new position pretty much. So we don't want our character to automatically be at our current position because that sucks. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically add a current or a new position by adding 3 to the z-axis, so it's not going to be landing on top of the object, which is not what we want. Okay, so at the bottom of the script, we're going to put spawn object 0, transform.getComponent navMeshAgent, .setDestination, and then we're going to put new location on spawn.position. So yeah, that's pretty much just telling our character to go to that object. Now I believe we set up the character object inside our first tutorial, but I sort of modified it along the way. So yeah, that's another one you're going to have to go through the tutorials to actually find out if you haven't been following along. Okay, so like I said, this is going to be inside the comment section below, so don't worry about writing all this down if you don't want to. If you do, just take a look at it. Make sure you do got the using Unity engine.ai at the top, otherwise it will not work. Okay, perfect. All right, here we go. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to roll down and we're going to just put this simple equation. And this is inside the mouse control script, by the way. And like I said, I'm not going to copy this script either because this is inside some of my previous tutorials, and you just have to put this simple code here. Okay, so if input.getMouseButton0, so if we left click and hit.transform.name barracks, and that's why I said the name is very important, because you have the same name right there. Then we're going to say hit.transform.getComponent barracks is selected is equal to true. And that's how we basically make sure that our character is selected. Okay, now keep in mind this is a Raycast. The reason why I was putting it inside here instead of the other is because with a Raycast we can select an individual object instead of having to, go through if our mouse is on the trigger or our mouse is over. it would have been a huge mess either way. So basically we went with the Raycast system, and like I said, I covered this inside a previous tutorial. You just have to go back and get that script. Okay, now you will need to also set a public vector3 on your player controller, and of course on this one right here. I forget which one I had to adjust, but yeah, you'll need to reset those to public just to make sure that they're there. Okay, so the last thing we're going to be covering is, of course, our base inventory. Now, our base inventory is a very, very basic inventory system. I mean, really basic. So we set up a public float called gold cur gold max. Now, obviously, nobody wants to have a gold max, but I put it there just for purposes. So we're going to put a void update function. We're going to say if gold cur is less than or greater than or equal to gold max, then gold cur is equal to gold max. Basically, you know, it can't go higher. And if gold cur is less than or equal to 0, then gold cur is equal to 0. That way it can't be lower than 0. And that's what we want. Okay, so starting off, you're going to select your barracks and you're going to put your barracks script on there. Then you're going to create an empty game object. So if you don't know how to do that, right click on your hierarchy and you're going to create empty. Once you got that done, just name it whatever you want to call it. I call it player bank. And of course, drag your base inventory script or your inventory script, whatever you got, onto there. Now I, of course, set my gold cur to 0 currently and gold max to 50. I'm going to put my gold cur at 5. Okay. The next thing that you're going to do, you're going to select your barracks. Make sure that you have your barracks script on there. And you're going to go over to your player bank and then drag your player bank object onto it. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go over to spawn objects. Now if you see this at 0, that's all good. Simply change it to 1. And then of course you're going to drag which object you want to use. Preferably you'd want to set it up as a prefab. My player's currently not a prefab, I don't think. It might be a prefab. Whatever it is, if it's a prefab, that's good because then you could spawn it even if you don't have a character on the scene. And right here, just make sure that it's there. And of course, you could change this element up to like 3, 6, whatever you want to call it. But right now we only need 1, so that's what we're going to do. Your new location on spawn, you're just going to open up your barracks, grab the child, which is the spawn location, drag it in there. Is selected as equal to false automatically. You don't have to worry about that. And of course, you're going to set up your UI canvas. If you don't have a UI canvas set up, that's all right. It's very simple to do. All you need to do is right click and then go over to where it says UI and then select button. And it will automatically put a canvas up there. Now you can rename your button, whatever you want to call it. I call it player. And then just change the text to whatever you want to call it. So I put spawn new player, cost 5 gold, and of course adjusted the height to 60 on that. Now my canvas is set to screen space camera, and of course my plane distance is set at 0.1. Now the closer your camera is, or the plane distance is to your camera, you will need to do one adjustment to your main camera. So whatever your camera you're using, make sure that you change this clipping planes to the lowest it can go. Otherwise, your UI is going to be invisible, which is not what we want. So once you got your UI canvas set up, make sure that you drag this into your GUI barracks. You're also going to go over to cost of units. And just like before, we're going to set the size to 1. And of course, the cost to 5 for element 0. Now keep in mind that on our barracks, if you want to have multiple units, you will need to put multiple ones of these, so the cost, and of course change these numbers as well. So you just simply copy, paste, and so on. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to select our GUI canvas, select our player button, roll down, and you're going to find this on-click function. If you don't have that, it's very easy to add. You select the button, make sure that you have it on, press the plus key. You can see this little note, and you're going to find your barracks. Drag your barracks into there, select the no function, find the barracks, I guess you could say script, and from there you're going to find where we're going to spawn. So spawn new player, perfect. We're going to hit Control S, press play, and here we go. So as you can see, our camera is working perfectly like we wanted it to. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select our barracks, which is great. Now we're going to right click, which is good, right? We're going to select it. We're going to spawn new player. Okay, so it doesn't allow us to spawn it. So let's go ahead and select our, I guess you could say our player bank. Our current gold is equal to 5, so it should allow us to. Let's try changing it to 6. There we go. Now we can spawn it. So that may be an issue right there. So we're going to quickly go and adjust that real fast. So is equal is, let's just say greater than or equal. There we go. So now we can go ahead and press play and it should work. So here we go. We're going to select. There we go. Perfect. And if you notice, our gold cur is equal to 0 now. And we can, of course, control this player, tell this player to do what. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, check out some other videos. If you have any questions regarding this video or any other videos, please leave it in the comment section below. As I said before, I will be posting the Barracks script and base inventory script down below inside the comment section as well. I'll see you guys next time.